Maybe you've heard watercolor artists say that you should only use transparent pigments. Heart-led watercolor artists do whatever they think will serve the painting. We are in service to our art. We are slaves to the work. And so we're going to use whatever works. Hi, I'm Angela Fehr. My mission is to help you become your own favorite watercolor artist with techniques to help you grow your skills and insight to help you conquer fear in your watercolor journey. All this month, we're celebrating World Watercolor Month with techniques and lessons geared especially for beginning painters. I believe that you can learn to paint in watercolor in a heart-led, intuitive way. It doesn't have to be all about rules, and that's what we're learning this month. You can watch the weekly lessons here on YouTube all through July and join my Fearless Artist community for access to the entire course. Today's prompt is splashes of color. We are going to throw some color around and learn a little bit about color theory in the process. I'm a color doer, not a color don'ter. I am all about using color rather than worrying about whether it's the right color or not. We find out by actually exploring those colors in actual painting situations. So let's get started. We're going to do a fun exercise to show you how one color can change dramatically depending on what's beside it. Please do subscribe to my channel. I share watercolor lessons here, not just during World Watercolor Month, but all year round. It is World Watercolor Month. I am focusing on beginner techniques, but I have pulled out my big professional palette today because I need to have access to all of these colors as we talk about color. Splashes of color is the prompt today on worldwatercolormonth.com. So we're going to start with one of my very favorite colors. Why not? Splashes of color should give me the opportunity to splash my very favorite color. This is Cobalt Teal Blue, and it is incredible. Cobalt Teal Blue is a little bit opaque, so it actually covers over darks really well. And it's transparent as well because it's watercolor. It's vibrant and lively. It fades into this beautiful soft aqua, and it's just a remarkable color. And I'm making 4 marks today just with the side of my brush, and this is a wonderful exercise for you if you're wanting to learn about color and if you're wanting to strengthen your confident brush handling skills. This is a good place to start. Now, Cobalt Teal does different things depending on who its friends are. So we're going to make some friends with for our Cobalt Teal. I'm going to start with a green gold, and we're going to add that into this painting over here. Green gold, hello. And we're going to put, let's see here, an orange. How about the Quinacridone Sienna? In this version here, and a little bit of it's going to be touched into the Cobalt Teal, a little bit of it out on its own. Yeah, we can add more in a minute if we want. We'll stick that over there to help us remember what's what. Put that one there. On this one, let's use a magenta. We'll go with a primary color. This is Quinacridone Magenta. And let that interplay there. And then we'll choose one last color here. We've got a green, we've got an orange, we've got a pink. What am I missing? Maybe another blue, huh? Let's use a cobalt and a cobalt blue. And what happens is when you start playing with different colors in a 2-color wash, a little more cobalt there, is we start to see different things happen in the painting. And we're going to spend more time adding, moving back and forth between these colors. I started with a nice juicy brush of Cobalt Teal, so it's damp enough that I can continue to mix and mingle the colors. And in fact, I could even add a 3rd color if I want to, and I'm thinking about adding maybe a violet to this one. That would kind of bring our range from turquoise teal blue to that more royal blue to the violet. Let's do it, why not? Just dot a little bit of dioxazine violet in. Dioxazine is very powerful, so we don't want to overdo it. I was thinking of this lesson as being a 2-color exercise, but when you get an idea in watercolor and you want to be creative, that means you don't say no to those brilliant ideas when they pop into your head. Okay, so that's going to stay there. Let's go back to the magenta and maybe put a little bit more of the rich magenta. There's a puddle of cobalt teal right there. Pull out more of that teal as well, so we can give them a chance to flow and mingle with each other. And you're thinking, well, teal, it's a blue, and the magenta should give you a violet. So what are we getting for violet over here? Let me tease some of it out into the corner to see what we get when the two start to mix. And you can see that, yes, we do get a violet, but it's a very grayed violet. A little bit softer, because that's the way cobalt teal and magenta roll. Now we're gonna start to see some drying over here in our first 2 washes, so let's go back to those. The Quin Sienna. Now Sienna, this particular Quin Sienna is quite an orangey color, so we know that it's probably going to be a bit murky and neutral when mixed with our cobalt teal. So let's stir them together up in this corner and see what we do get for a neutral. It's got a hint of brown with that little extra higher percentage of Quin Sienna there. So it's kind of a greenish brown maybe. And so we get an interesting neutral by mixing those two, and that can be really good to know, because I'm often looking for a beautiful neutral, and knowing that I can create that with my cobalt teal, my Quinacridone Sienna, spattering on a 4 painting project is probably an unwise idea, but I live on the edge. And then finally back to our teal and green gold. Throw a little more of the teal up, throw a little more of the green gold in. That gives us a beautiful vibrant green, very fun to work with. So suddenly I have 4 different paintings, 4 different moods. These are abstract, playful kind of projects. So let's talk about the moods that we're getting from these 4 little paintings. Generally, when you're working with a color scheme where all the colors are very closely related, it's called an analogous color scheme, and that's pretty much the extent of my technical descriptions of color, because I'm a color user, not a color researcher. I really loved figuring out how to use these colors. To me, this looks like delphiniums, and then mine are just about to bloom in the garden. Beautiful, rich periwinkle blue, gorgeous colors. They're very calming as well. Lots of peace in this little wash over here. So where do we not have peace? Where do we have tension? A little bit of strong engagement. I would say over in this complementary color scheme, we've got a teal and an orange, a blue and an orange, and they react against each other. They create a neutral when they're mixed. They get muddy and murky. And side by side, there is vibrating strength between the 2 colors in their purest form. We get a little hint of that here in the magenta and teal combination as well. In fact, what I love even more than magenta is opera pink. It's just a little bit brighter. And then the magenta, which is a little more towards purple. And so there's a really beautiful energy between those 2 as well. And mixing together, we get kind of a neutralized color. It's kind of grayed, kind of that gray violet. So we can see that there's a hint of the complement in that mixture as well. There's some connection between those 2. And then here, this is actually moving towards an analogous color scheme as well. Instead of moving cooler toward the blues, we went warmer toward the greens. And the colors work really well together. And they create, this was more of a calming energy. This is a brighter kind of sunshiny dance that has harmony and energy at the same time. So we see different moods happen in the color combinations we choose. When you're painting with colors that make mud, you know you're working with colors that are complementary. You get complex neutrals and this lovely kind of vibrating tension. Sometimes when you're working with colors that you think should get along, you'll still see mud. And that means you need to look at your color theory just a little more deeply. There must be something in those two colors that is complementary. So over here where we see that grayed purple instead of a rich, bright, royal purple, we know that that's probably because our colors are complementary in some way. We've got this warm blue. It's a teal blue. It's verging more towards aqua, and that means it's further away from the pink. And so because they don't share that warm characteristic, the pink is a cool red, but this is a warm blue. That's why we get that tension, that little bit of grayed kind of murkiness in our violet. It's a beautiful violet, but if you're looking for a rich, clear violet, you might need to move towards a blue that's a little closer to cyan, a little bit further away from the yellow. So often when we're painting, our color choices are almost accidental or they're driven by our reference photo. But when you know a little bit about colors, why they react together the way they do, it makes it easier to have some intentions so that you can direct the mood of your painting based on the colors you choose. In my online course, Heartled Landscapes, I did 10 paintings of the same scene, changing it every time. I was making stylistic decisions as well as color choices, but you can see just looking through these paintings how the mood changes depending on the colors that were chosen for the scene. We can especially see it if we contrast these guys and these. They just are very different, and a very big part of that is due to the colors. So before we move on, I think it might be a good idea just to pull back to this. I know you're looking at these messes of color and thinking, well, now I just wasted another piece of paper, and you haven't. Every time you paint, you're adding to your body of knowledge. These are important lessons. It does not matter if the painting turns out or not. But if you want to have a little fun and actually feel like you have something to show for your efforts, I can see that it might be tempting to want to paint some more on these paintings. And so we're going to do that. I'm going to start with just a nice dark color, and we're going to add some shape to our scenes. These can become something in just a little moment and a little bit of brushwork. So we're going to start with this one, and I'm just going to use my beautiful Loose Goose Dagger Striper brush because it makes these charming lines that are absolutely gorgeous. Aren't those so cute? This gives me the opportunity to practice my brush handling. And I'm going to work with the shape that I see on the paper and just add some darks in there, a little pattern. And then let's go up from there, yeah, with a strong bold mark. And then maybe dampen the brush a little bit and pull out a tree shape. And I'm using such a fine point on this brush, which gives me the opportunity to create beautiful intuitive marks. And now we have a landscape scene. A little paler indigo here gives us a more distant tree, slightly thinner lines. Let's go even thinner and paler with one last tree on this side. And we have a scene. It's just that easy. Indigo is a great color to use. If you have Payne's Gray, that works as well. I like using indigo because it actually watermarks really beautifully, and so I can drip a little bit of water into that tree trunk and get a soft light and dark variation there that's really pretty. For this one, we're going to actually go to another blue. Let's go to the phthalo turquoise and see what we can do with a big swishy color. I'm trying to channel ocean waves in my brain, and it's been a while since I've been to the ocean, so using my imagination. So it will probably be more of an abstract ocean shape. That's okay. But again, interesting brush marks, darker value color, kind of creates that form. A little bit of spatter. Gives us some texture. This is where that white gouache could come in handy too. That will give me maybe some. And that's not a watercolor purist thing. If you're a beginning painter, maybe you've heard watercolor artists say that you should only use transparent pigments. Heart-led watercolor artists do whatever they think will serve the painting. We are in service to our art. We are slaves to the work. And so we're going to use whatever works in the painting. And look at how adding that little bit of white just gives a beautiful pattern there. I like that one. Back to the indigo, I think, maybe. This time we're going to use our indigo and we're going to carve around this shape. Well, I don't know what that is. Wasn't quite what I planned, but that's what happens when you use these really long brushes, is that they are a bit unpredictable. So sometimes you get a few marks that you're not sure about. And that is the part of art that I think is the most wonderful, is the ability of art to surprise you. And I often think those surprises come from the heart, from your art, your heart knowing what you need more than your thinking mind does. We're doing another tree, if you haven't figured it out already. This time it's a little bit of negative painting. So it's angling down like that. And then maybe back here we have a vertical tree. I'm using indigo because it's a quick fix, a speedy way to get some dark values. But I could have taken my original cobalt teal blue and my Quin Sienna, and I could have used those to mix up a nice dark as well. It wouldn't have been this dark, but it would have been a really nice neutral to layer over. And if you're a person who likes to work with pen and ink, this is a great place to build some pen and ink skills. Take those watercolor washes and play with drawing right over top of it. Okay, that was kind of fun. You got to try it for yourself and see. Let's go back to the phthalo blue for this last one. It's going to really match with everything else that's happening in this scene. And I'm going to use negative painting again. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to kind of carve around some of the shapes that I like in this painting. And go darker to bring some of those lighter shapes out. I feel like in some way that could be a flower, an unknown kind of flower. Let's put some stamens in here. And a few lines to kind of suggest some shape there. This whole time I've been using a brush that's hard to control, that forces me to be a little, not too rigid, not too structured in my painting, because rigid and structured tends to look stiff. I don't want to look stiff. So I played with carving out that shape and then softening edges. And you can see there that turquoise bleeding into the rest of the painting. So pretty. I almost see a bird here too. Yeah, a phoenix just flying away or something. This is imaginary play. This is what feels really good to the heart when you're painting. When you let your imagination go to work, and especially in these little paintings, because there's a lot of freedom there. There's not a lot of risk. 4 chances to do something kind of fun and spontaneous. 4 different color explorations which kind of guided that finished look. This is heart work. This is the work that helps you become a heart-led artist, that helps you learn to listen to yourself. And when you're channeling this kind of fun into your paintings, It's completely addictive, and it helps you become a more heart-guided artist because you then start to see the difference between rigid, rule-based, fear-based painting and the free, heart-led exploration that feels so true and authentic and shows, and it makes your paintings come alive. There is a supply list in the description below the video, as well as information on how you can access the rest of the lessons in this series. There is an entire course, Learn Watercolor the Heart-Led Way, and I'd love for you to grab onto that while it's available. There's a special introductory offer for you. As well, we're celebrating World Watercolor Month by supporting our charitable partner, the Dreaming Zebra Foundation at dreamingzebra.org. This organization is passionate about getting creativity into the hands of kids by providing them with art supplies. And I just love that objective. I've seen it in my own family. Creativity births ideas. Ideas brought to life create the problem solvers of our future, the innovators, the entrepreneurs. We need creatives in our lives. And Dreaming Zebra helps us do that. When you make a purchase on the World Watercolor Month souvenir shop, that's at worldwatercolormonth.com, you can grab onto stuff like this beautiful tumbler, my signature watercolor pouch with one of my paintings on it. This is my favorite painting from last year. And all of the profits from any purchase in the souvenir shop during July go to dreamingzebra.org. You also can access a direct donation link in the description below the video. Join with me in supporting this marvelous organization.